Hey.
Hare Krishna, and welcome to the GBC Strategic Planning Team's ongoing coverage of things related to the COVID-19 outbreak and how devotees around the world are dealing with such situations. And we're very honored and fortunate to have today His Grace Nityanada Prabhu, who's the temple president of our ISKCON Dallas community, as well as zonal supervisor for many parts of the USA. And before we begin, asking him some questions and hearing how things are going in Dallas and how they dealt with an outbreak of COVID-19, I wanted to offer just a little personal appreciation for Nityananda Prabhu, because my son was born and raised in India, and he went to America on his own when he was 18, and he went to the Dallas community, and Nityananda Prabhu and the whole wonderful Dallas community treated him like one of their own and took care of him and nurtured his Krishna consciousness. And he could go to Nityananda Prabhu's house any time of day and night and get prasadam. And he had the great friendship of Nityananda Prabhu's wonderful two sons. So I'm eternally indebted to him for helping my son with his Krishna consciousness. So thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dhanwas Prabhu. And actually, we're internally indebted to have a Vrajavasi amongst us, because your son is a Vrajavasi. Of course, you're a Vrajavasi too. Your name is Vraja Vihari. So the great fortune was ours. Thank you very much.
So Prabhu, why don't we go right into it, and then maybe talk about some other things. But you, from what I understand, some of the devotees were tested positive for COVID-19. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. How many devotees? What was that?
There were three of them. How it happened was that, as you know, we're all trying to follow city requirements, county requirements for COVID-19, for the pandemic. And so we had different systems laid out as to how we could shelter the devotees, protect the devotees from getting caught in any bad situation. Because really, from the pandemic point of view, our main concern was that the devotees be safe and the devotees be happy and everybody be safe and happy. But then it's our concern to take care of the devotees. And of course, the same for the deities. Whatever service we could do, we would do, keeping the safety of the devotees in mind. So one of the things that we had laid down was if anybody traveled out of town, that when they came back, they should isolate for a while, especially if they flew somewhere. Because at that time, it was like considered that 80% of the 80% chance was there if somebody flew on a flight that they would have something with them, you know. So what had happened was we just placed the system, the rule in place 2 days earlier, and one of our devotees had flown out prior to that rule going in place, and came back after the rule was in place and didn't realize that that she should have isolated herself. So she came to one of the programs. At that time, we were doing a very small Sunday feast program at the temple where 5 or 6 devotees were allowed with distancing, wearing masks, all the 10 yards, you know. Right. And so, and she came. None of us knew that she had traveled out. She didn't know this rule was in place. And lo and behold, what happened was 2 days after she visited, she said, I'm not feeling well. She called me and said, I'm not feeling well. And the doctor said I should go to the emergency. What should I do? And I said, yeah, go to the emergency. And also call another doctor if you feel that they tell you have something. At that time, we thought she's just sick, Right. When she went there, she got tested. She said, I've got COVID-19. I said, oh, my God. Here we go. This is our first case. So immediately, because she had been to the temple on that Sunday, so immediately we went into action. I started speaking to some of the devotees. And so some of the devotees took the lead and started tracing who was there at that time. I was there myself at that time. At that Sunday, it happened that I gave the class at that Sunday feast. Different people are rostered at different times. Mm-hmm. And so basically I decided I have to isolate, and because I don't know if I also got it. And so I just decided immediately to get myself tested, because I thought if I got myself tested, then I would know. And then we started figuring out who else was there, contact tracing. And I called the Dallas Health Department, because they're the ones who are the go-to people according to the county and the city. Should anybody get COVID-19, you have to report it to them, and they would do the contact tracing. Well, apparently what happened was they were overwhelmed with so many cases. We contact traced everybody before they did, you know? And so we found out who all were involved. There were like about 20, 30 people involved altogether, because there were only 6 people at the Sunday feast, but then they went home and they were here and they were there. And, you know, it's like, so then it actually grew to about 60 or 70 later. But anyway, initially we were about 30. And so what we did was we told all the 30 to isolate, and we shut the restaurant down completely. Before that, it was just pick up only at the restaurant. And so we shut the restaurant down, we shut the temple down in even more than we had in the past, and got everyone to say, if you want to come back to the temple, then you have to isolate for 15 to 20 days. But if you want to come back earlier, get yourself tested and still stay home for a while, because some of these tests, even though they say they're negative, they're not quite negative, you know?
Yeah, they can have false negative and false positive, right?
Yeah, so we got these good quality tests done that cost us $150 each, by the way. But they were very good tests. But even then, you know, so almost everybody came out negative except for 2 people. They came out positive. And so those 2 people, we isolated them. So lucky enough, you know, Haridas Prabhu at our temple, he had gone with his fiancée to Atlanta. So his apartment was available. And so we moved the 2 of them into that apartment and said, you isolate there and get yourself well again. And then, you know, we'll know if you're well, then you can come back. In the meantime, this is what we did to sort of make sure that it didn't go any further than these 3 persons. Initially 1 person, and of course, by chance, 2 more people. But then after that, it would have been our fault if it went further than that.
Right.
So that way we took care of it.
Did they have light symptoms or heavy symptoms? Or
all of them had mild symptoms. All of them had mild symptoms, yeah, except for one of them who had been, coughing, sneezing, sputtering a little before. But I think that was not related to COVID. That was just that person had been doing that for about 3 or 4 months prior. So, you know, it was like this. It was just part of his situation.
And they were relatively young?
All of them were young. All of them were in their 30s or 20s. Amazingly, you know, one of the challenges we found is that it's harder to convince the older people to comply. You know, the younger ones are complying, and the younger ones caught it. You know, it's like
interesting.
Go figure. You know.
Well, that is good to know, because we had Shaunika Rishi Prabhu and Vishwambar Prabhu on this on the GBC Strategic Planning Team broadcast before, and both of them had COVID-19, and both of them are in their late 50s or early 60s. And they had a very, very rough time of it. Very rough. 6 weeks, 8 weeks, very little energy. Some in the beginning, very troubled breathing, and I think at least one of them still has symptoms after a few months now. You know, I mean, not major ones, but like not 100% energy. Yeah. So it does seem to vary. So wow, you really did it. Sounds like you did a really responsible and good job of containing this. Could have gone wild.
We have a good number of doctors who are already day-to-day involved with dealing with COVID-19 patients who are our devotees. And so, you know, they were advising us. And one thing we did was, with the older devotees, we sort of got heavy a little in the earlier stage and said, do the preventive things like gargling. And, you know, some of us put essential oils in our nose every day, you know, and things like that. And all types of things to try and prevent the situation in the first case, you know, because the older ones actually are more prone to actually catching something faster, you know, like that. Yeah.
And now the state of Texas is one of the worst states in America, right, for the COVID-19.
It's number 5 on the state list, but Dallas is number 1 on the world list. Now in Dallas, 200 people dying every day in Dallas. So Dallas is number 1 city in the whole world, not just United States. And
per 100,000 people or whatever.
Yeah. Well, no, in terms of the number of deaths. In terms of the number of deaths. We have the highest number of deaths on a daily basis. So, you know, we're right the epicenter, you might say. We are the, you know, we are the New York of the world, you know what I mean?
Right. Oh my God. So does that mean, so where is your temple at and the restaurant at right now, considering, you know, Dallas is in that situation?
Yeah, well, the restaurant, what we did was we went to pick up only, and we have a very nice system where the floor is marked with how far you have to stand to come into the restaurant. There are masks at the door in case you didn't bring a mask. There's hand sanitizer there if you had the hand sanitizer. They have gloves sitting right in front. You can pick up your own glove and wear a glove. And when you come in, there are these, these shields, so you really can't contact the person on the other side. And then, you're given a to-go box, and then you tell which items, and they'll fill it in for you and then give it to you. So we have a very nice system laid out there. And only a few people can come in at a time. So, they're spread out. So they call us ahead of time. We're going to be coming. We tell them what time to come, things like that. And so by that method, and especially by cooking food on a catering basis. So what happens is people call us and they say, well, we want 80 pizzas. Okay, so now what we do is from the night before, we start cooking the pizzas and I'm getting all the base ready, this, that, the other. The morning, we make fresh pizzas and people come and pick up those pizzas. You see what I'm saying? It's amazing how pizzas are making so much money these days. Anyway, so like that, people order different types of meals, like maybe a South Indian meal, a Gujarati meal, a Punjabi meal, a Chinese meal, a Italian meal, or whatever it is, and we cater it to them. We tell them we can give as many boxes as you want. Of course, we really can't, but we just say that so that nobody doesn't come to us. And that way, we're making much more money than the pickups. So, so we're doing, the restaurant is doing quite well. The temple is also doing quite well. The book distribution is continuing, things like that. But, obviously minimal, nobody's allowed to the temple in terms of darshan. Basically, all that happens is that you online darshan yourself. And we're telling people, look, you would never have had this good opportunity to preach had the temple be open, because you'd be lazy and come to the temple, have darshan and think, I did my quota, Now you have to go online, talk to people, reach out, preach to them, and that's much better, right? So I think this is just Krishna's arrangement. I call it Kalachandji's arrangement, because of course I'm from Dallas, but but it's Krishna's arrangement for us to really preach out there, reach out to people, and people are suffering. They're so ready to listen to people, Just as a small example, in these last 3 months or 4 months, I personally have now made 35 new devotees,
Wow.
So, so that's, I didn't do that in my 20 years as a temple president. I've never done something like that, I've been busy with the ministry, helping the others make devotees, and of course done a few of myself, but never focused like this. But now so many people are listening to us. They love us. They want answers. They're depressed, they're anxiety, they're confused, and everything Prabhupada said is coming to pass now, Like, this is amazing.
That's great. I was going to say, I can understand a lot of orders of pizza, because pizza is kind of like a comfort food. And when people are in a lot of anxiety, like you're saying, and, sometimes food is one of the comforting things you can do. You can only do so much shopping on Amazon or this or that, but so I could definitely understand that. And
people who eat our pizza say, this is the best pizza we offer to Krishna, right? So obviously it's going to be the best, Krishna tasted it, and I'm just thinking to myself, wow, this may be a new program for us, making pizzas.
Wonderful. Well, Kalachandji's is such a wonderful restaurant, and I've been to Dallas, many times over the years, here and there, and it's just consistent quality. Right. It's really amazing.
In the last 9 years, we've won the Best Restaurant of the Year award. It's no wonder. And then we have this wonderful program where we teach people how to cook. We have these gourmet cooking classes, and the television channels have been showcasing us on TV. So we've done very well, and on the food side for sure. We've done very well.
That's really, really, really great. And you said how are the devotees doing book distribution if they can't talk to people face to face?
Well, Vaisheshika Prabhu is like the emperor of book distribution, for us. He's come out with all these nice programs. You can get online, call people, and sign them up for books, and send them the books, and send them some nice other items together with it, so that shows our affection for them. And so people, there are people who are distributing books now who never did distribute any books before, because the system is a very simple system. It's a very sort of like relishable system. You enjoy yourself. You don't see anybody face to face, so you don't feel the rejection and the dejection and all the other stuff. It's all quite positive. Even if they don't buy a book, they said hi to you. They said Hare Krishna. they were happy you called down, this type of stuff. So you feel good, right? You walk away feeling good. So it's really nice. Yeah, it's really nice.
And if we can, I'd like to talk a little bit about yourself, because you're not originally from the U.S., right?
No, I'm from Fiji, South Pacific.
Fiji.
South Pacific, yes.
I've been there once or twice. I've been there once, many years ago.
Yeah.
How did you? And you're a lawyer by profession, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, by profession, I'm an attorney and a CPA. Those are my two professional qualifications. Yes.
So how did you come to Krishna consciousness?
I came to Krishna. Funny way I came to Krishna consciousness is that the Hare Krishnas built their temple right next to my house, contiguous property, and so from my living room I can have darshan of the deities. Really? And so we didn't feel bad about it so much at that time. But what happened was they became very successful. Their brahmachari and brahmachari ashram spilled over. There were too many people joining the program. So what they decided was to buy our house out so that they could expand the brahmachari program. And we didn't want to sell our house. That was our ancestral home. That's the first home my father ever built. So what they did was they put very loud speakers on our side of the house. And at around 4:15 in the morning, they'd take these big wampus and bang it on the microphone. And I'd be levitating in bed, because of the noise. So anyway, so we became unhappy with them. And so my father was the leader of the political party. There were two major political parties. He was the chairman of one of them. And my brother was with them. And, in politics is a very dirty game. So my brother said, let's just bomb the temple, kill the devotees. They'll all run away. That's the way to get rid of them. And I was coming from a legal background. I said, no, let's sue them. We'll sue them in court and we'll get them out of here, So that's how I came to know the Hare Krishnas.
And was this the Kaliya Krishna temple?
Krishna Kaliya temple, yes.
Krishna Kaliya temple. Okay, so then what happened? You sued them and you
won?
We
sued them. I used to worship Lord Shiva, and myself. And so we were in court. We went all the way to the Supreme Court. I think we might have won that case because we got some engineers to come in from New Zealand to test the decibel levels of the sound. And it was way above the human capacity. And so that was noise nuisance. And then, of course, Hare Krishna's already had a bit of a bad name. There was this movie out that they would do ganja and this, that. Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Dhamma Radha.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
So there wasn't a very good reputation anyway for them, So, but then what happened was one day what happened was we were running a business, and the manager in our business who I'd appointed happened to be the bishop of the Mormon church in Fiji, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Latter-day Saints. Right.
He said to me, there's a nice program going on, spiritual program tonight. You want to come with me? I said, yeah, I love spiritual program. I said, who's speaking? He said, he likes the Hare Krishnas. I said, we're suing the Hare Krishnas. We're going to get rid of them. Why would I go to a Hare Krishna program? So I said, no way, I'm not going. And so, but that evening, for some reason, he called back again, and I got this realization that Lord Shiva says that, you have to find a guru in this life, and the guru might be a friend, enemy, older, younger, male, female. There's no designation to a guru. And so I thought, well, can't be my enemy, you know what I mean? But then if I don't go, I'm saying to Lord Shiva, you're wrong, so I have to go. So I went to the program, and they protected, because they knew I come from a political family. They were worried I came to do something to him.
Right. They saw you and thought, oh my God.
Yeah, we were wild. In politics, you kill people to win elections. Anything happens. It's a dirty game. So anyway, so what happened was that I heard the lecture. I had no disagreement, except he was saying Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I said, I know that Lord Shiva is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna can never be God. He steals butter, dances with other people's wives in the middle of the night. How can he even be a moral person? What to be a God? And Lord Shiva is such a nice person. Right? So anyway, I went to bed thinking to myself, no problem, he's not my guru, everything's fine. But in the morning, as I was about to wake up, Lord Shiva comes in my dream and tells me, that's your spiritual master.
Really?
So I was shocked out of my pants. I mean, I was sweating, So then I went to check out the program again. This time I met with Mal Krishna Maharaj the next day, and he sort of challenged me, He asked me what I was doing as a businessman. So he asked me to make a schedule of what I do on a daily basis. I wrote it down, turned the schedule around, wrote something, gave it back to him, and I saw it changed my swimming time. I would go swimming at 5 o'clock every morning. He said, swim at midday. I said, why did you change my swimming time? He said, well, 5 o'clock in the morning, you're fresh. If you swim at midday, you'll become refreshed and your profits will double. I said, now you're talking my talk. That's my talk. Talk about how much money I can make. I'm a businessman. So anyway, so he challenged me, and he gave me a 3 month challenge. If you do these 4 things, and if we're wrong, we'll leave Fiji. and you can have Fiji. But if we're right and you're wrong, then you have to become a Hare Krishna, you know. So so then we went through. After a month of the challenges, I realized that that this was a bona fide religion. So I actually wrote to him, and he was in Hawaii at the time, and said, and actually, I wrote to him, and he called back. I telexed him at the time. There were telexes, and telexed him and said, "Please make me your disciple. I'm ready to join." This is right, you know.
Wow.
Withdrew the case and everything, and so that's how I became Hare Krishna.
And your father, was he favorable, or?
No, he kicked me out of the house. He said, you know, I give you 48 hours to get out of the house. And so basically, fortunately, a brainwave came to me the second day. I went to his spiritual master. I said, let's go and speak to your spiritual master. He was in the what do you call it? It's a very famous Indian movement, you know, at that time.
Arya Samaj?
Yeah, one of them. You know, it wasn't Arya Samaj. It was one of these other ones. They were in. They're operating out of Kolkata as well, you know.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Anyway, that's the one in which Vivekananda was part of that group, you know.
Right, yes.
I forget their name now, anyway. So their spiritual master happened to be in another town. So both of us went to him and spoke with him, and we spent hours. I give both of our cases, and the guy wouldn't decide, you know. So finally, I said, we've been sitting here 8 hours and haven't had anything to drink, anything to eat. And every time I say something, he says, you're right. Every time my father says something, you're right. Who's right here? One of us is right, one of us is wrong. So he said, let me go and meditate. So he went to his room and he meditated for half an hour, came back and told my father, if you want your family to be happy, let him join the Hare Krishnas, you know. And so my father said, okay, I won't come to your initiation ceremony, but you can do it. I said, but my mother and them will come, right? He said, okay. So then I thought, before I left there, I thought I'd go and check out his meditation room. You know, what is it like? What do these guys meditate on? So I opened the door, and what do I see? A huge mural of Prabhupada sitting, chanting.
Really?
So I said to him, but you know, you guys are not Hare Krishna. He says, no, but I've read his books. And what he says is perfectly correct. But he said, I can't say that in my movement. If I say that, they'll kick me out. He was a guru.
Wow.
So, you know, Ramakrishna Mission. That's
Ramakrishna Mission,
yeah. Very nice guru. His name was Bhaskar Nair. So actually, the day he left his body, he asked me to come and hold his hand and chant Hare Krishna while he was leaving his body. You know. But that was very nice of him. I never told my father, because I thought if he found out that it was Prabhupada in the video, he would say, sorry, peels off. You know?
Right.
Not say anything, just stay quiet. You know?
Amazing. And then how did you end up from Fiji to Dallas?
Well, what happened was that, you know, my father won the elections in 1984. They won the elections and he nominated the prime minister, and he decided to declare Fiji nuclear free because that was one of the platforms on which they won the elections. New Zealand had declared itself nuclear free, and America had withdrawn its ambassador and cut relations with New Zealand because, you know, they have nuclear powered warships and submarines. They can't stop them from going into a country, you know what I mean? So Fiji decided to follow suit, but what had happened was the Americans had decided to build a base in Fiji because there are two bases in the Philippines, and one of the bases, some of their Navy men had raped some of the local girls. So the Filipinos went up in arms, and they were telling the Americans, get rid of one base. So they decided to move the base to Fiji, and they offered my father's party the full GDP as a yearly rental for a small portion of one of the islands.
Wow. I
told my father, grab it, man. Your GDP doubles overnight, right? You're going to do much better. He said, no, we've promised that we'll be nuclear free. And, you know, he used to believe in Lord Ram, and Lord Ram is a saying, Pranjai, Papachanajai. I lose my life, but I'll never give up my principles, you know? Mm-hmm. So he said, it's our principle, we're not going to give it up. I said, doesn't sound very smart, you know? I was already an advisor to our prime minister before his prime minister came to place on the opposite side. And so I told him I didn't think it was a good idea. But they did it anyway. Within 2 weeks, the CIA moved in, fomented a coup. My father got thrown in jail. They lost everything. We lost our business and everything. And so I just decided to travel all over the world and do business. When my spiritual master found out, he got mad at me. He said, Krishna took away your business, not so that you can go right back into business. He said, he took it away so you can do his business now. So I said, what do you want me to do? He said, I want you to go to America. And I said, the first 4 words that came out of my mouth was, over my dead body. He got so angry when he heard that. He was livid. He said, you're no longer my disciple. No one talks to the spiritual master like that. You know what I mean? And so I said, I'm really sorry. I just thought to myself, what did I just say? You know what I mean? So he said, you have to go to America. If you want to be my disciple, you have to go to America. I didn't want to come. I came. Now I feel like this is the best decision I made because
Right.
Americans are such nice people. It's just such a
Right.
nice country. It's such a it's a leader country. America is where things are happening. And I think we just have to get with it and start preaching a little better, and things will work out a lot better for us. It's already happening, by the way. More Americans are now taking to Krishna consciousness, so I think that's been very good.
What an amazing story! My gosh! And then of course you ended up in Dallas because that's where Tamal Krishna Maharaj was.
Yeah,
one of his
I
temples,
was
right?
bargaining with him. I said I want to be in Los Angeles. He said no. He said you're going to be Houston or Dallas. So go to both places. I prefer Dallas, he said, but distant. So I checked both places. I also like Dallas because there are a lot of white devotees and Western devotees here. Houston was mainly Indian devotees. Now, one more Indian won't make any difference. So wanted to go to Dallas, and I studied in New Zealand 7 years. So I was very, very friendly with the white people in New Zealand, the Maoris, so the non-Indian. So I thought, wow, these people become friends and things like that. So I just decided to stay in Dallas.
Well, it's Krishna's mercy, and really wonderful.
No,
really wonderful.
It's the mercy of the devotees and the deities. It's just that's so wonderful.
So a lot of temples around the world, to different degrees, things are starting to open up, right? In different degrees.
Right.
What advice would you give to a temple leader who's thinking of having a big Janmashtami or opening for darshan more often or any of those things, considering the experience that you had with these 3 devotees and all the tracing that had to go on and all that?
For me, it's obviously we've learned the lesson both ways. We did lock down, and as a result, we were very successful. And in this case, happened all of an accident. It wasn't her fault at all. It was just an accident that it happened. Mm-hmm. But I think the key thing to do for any temple president is to always have a good link with the GBC, like the GBC strategic team, COVID-19 team, like that, and take some advice from people. Listen to what others have to also say. That type of thing. And in that particularly, I'd like to identify 3 groups. One is the GBC itself. The other is, and that could be one person or a group of people also. And the other is the team that, the GBC SPT COVID-19 team. I think we've got a wonderful team there who can really give very good information, Yeah. And the third, which very few temples I think are doing around the world, but would be very good, is to have a group of spiritual advisors, like we have Giriraj Maharaj, Ritadwaja Maharaj, Keshav Bharati Maharaj, and Giridhari Maharaj. These 4 are spiritual advisors of Texas. We call them SAT, spiritual advisors of Texas, And so anything we do, we talk to them. And Ritadwaja Maharaj actually stays in the community. And I can tell you, without his presence here, this would have been a real challenge for me or for our team. You know what I mean? Because, there's Dallas and especially Texas is the hotbed of conspiracy theories,
Is it?
This done by this person, by that person, the Chinese, the president, this, sort of like a Fauci, and it's just all the conspiracy theories. I mean, it's a hotbed of conspiracy theories. How do you make people wear masks? And when they wear the mask, they won't wear it properly. They'll wear it here, they won't put it over their mouth and nose and this, that, and the other. It's sort of like you're constantly battling people who just think this isn't even happening. There's nobody dying. This is all just a big conspiracy, and you're stopping us from worshiping Krishna, and all these things. They're getting mad at me, really mad at me, for the things that we lay down. But when you have spiritual advisors with you who are senior, they're spiritual masters, they're sannyasis like that, people listen better, you know what I mean, than listening to a temple president.
Yes.
So by that method, what I did was follow that system. Then basically, whatever decision you come to, because Guru Sadhu Sastra, like they say, right? If you try to make a decision based on a collective, Krishna's voice will come through. And every temple is going to be its own situation. I don't see one rule applying to everybody.
Yeah. I think that's the reality, isn't it? They're all different. Here, I guess you have well, the problem is that you're in Texas, you said the hotbed. Otherwise, you have that wonderful property next to the temple, right. Outdoors, right. Where I think Tamal Krishna Samadhi is, right?
Yes, yes.
That would be great. We're lucky here in Washington, D.C. We have 12 acres of land.
Nice.
And so we, all of our kirtans are outdoors, not in the temple room.
Very nice.
But you can actually see the deities from outside because it's windows there.
Right.
So that's what we're doing for Saturdays and Sundays. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. We tried that as well here, but our devotees won't listen. They all come and congregate, and they won't self their distance. So we do it sometimes. We still do it sometimes, but not as often as we'd like to. We had the devotees be a little more. I think the Dallas devotees don't really believe so much in COVID-19, and so that's our challenge, really, how to make it happen. And people think that this is just me trying to boss everybody around and trying to control.
Well, you're in the independent Republic of Texas, right?
Exactly.
It has that reputation all over America that it's kind of like a different country.
Yeah, it's a different country. Fiercely individual, which is good for us, by the way. That's our philosophy. We are fiercely individual.
Right. But that's that is. I always think this is my approach to conspiracy theories. Is some of them may be right, some of them may be wrong, but if accepting them means we become less cautious about something as serious as getting a serious disease, why not err on the side of safety? Exactly. Why not err on the side of the mainstream presentation, which covering masks, 6 feet, social distancing, washing your hands regularly. It's not going to kill you.
No.
And what if they're right? And then
the mainstream side is one thing, but also we have our spiritual leaders telling us, right? So are the spiritual leaders mainstream? They're not mainstream. They're just thinking from a spiritual point of view, right? So here we have the great fortune of having civic leaders and at the same time spiritual leaders. And if the both of them are saying the same thing, I think we should accept there has to be some value in it. It can't be all wrong, you know what I mean? There must be some value in it.
And then there's even ones that are really far out, like the 5G conspiracy, that it's all due to 5G and things. But anyway, it's not to make fun of that, but just to say, why not err on the side of safety?
Right.
You're dealing with Krishna's devotees. We saw what happened with Bhakti Charu Maharaj. We saw what happened to this wonderful devotee in England named Rameshwar Prabhu. Yes. I think somewhere between 5 and 10 devotees that left their body because of this. It's certainly no joke. And so why not?
And one other thing also, which is very important, I think. Krishna Prabhupada did tell us we should rack our brains to figure out how to preach, And what COVID-19 is allowing us to do is finding new avenues of preaching, And one particular thing that devotees have complained in the past is that why do we have to listen to you? You know what I mean? Why are you our boss? You know what I mean? That type of stuff, right? Everybody wants to be their own boss. They want to be a leader, this, that, and the other. Here, the pandemic is giving us that opportunity. Just hop on Zoom, hop on Facebook Live, hop on the myriads of different arrangements that are available online where you can be the preacher. You are the leader. And you can reach out to people all over the world and preach Krishna consciousness to your heart's content. You know what I mean? And you're not forced to comply with the temple structure and this, that, and the other. You see what I'm saying? So why don't you look at that also, that here are fresh new ways of reaching out and being Krishna conscious that are very exciting. People are doing it, are falling in love with it. I think for me, I know some of my devotees have become really good. Meaning my devotees, the temple's devotees become very good at this. I don't see them coming back to the temple. They love it so much. They're going to be doing their own thing now. You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting you say that. I've been talking to a number of sannyasis, and they say a few things. They say they've never been so regulated in their life. Wow. Right? Because they're usually traveling and spending half of their life in airports and things. And now I had one sannyasi, I won't mention his name, who said, this is the best sadhana he's had in 45 years because he can be so regulated. And also they say that they're speaking to more people than they've ever spoken to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people love them. And people love them more because now people need people, they're feeling depressed, they have anxiety, they're confused, they're doubts, and somebody is answering them. They feel like, you're my best friend. I love you. Are you God or something? Are you descending, have you descended on this planet? Like amazing things people are saying online, because they're getting answers to their concerns, And I think we should take advantage of this fully, 100%,
Yeah,
and chant really nicely, deep chanting, undisturbed chanting. Before it was disturbed chanting because so many things are happening, right? Now, like you said, we can be regulated. We can do really deep chanting, nice reading of Prabhupada's books, and then speaking to people with our heart's content, you know? I mean, this is the emperor's life. This is the king's life, the queen's life.
Yeah.
You know?
I was just on a initiation. Kadamba Kanana Maharaj gave a virtual initiation today, and there's like 150 devotees on the Zoom conference, and he had disciples from South Africa, different parts of Europe, America, maybe that was it. Maybe down under as well. It was great. One thing you said earlier in our discussion that I'd like to hear more about. You said you've 35 people you've brought to Krishna consciousness in these.
Yeah.
How did that happen? What's your secret? That's amazing.
Well, basically, there's no real secret. It's all following Prabhupada. You know, one of the things I've been doing, and that really helped me a lot. I've been thinking along all these lines for a long time, but never got it together. But one of the things that has really helped me in this COVID-19, I'm now regularly watching Srila Prabhupada's memories on, you know, the videos of people speaking about them meeting with Srila Prabhupada. And so one of the ideas I've been trying to figure out is how can you simplify Krishna consciousness so that it's easy for someone to take to the process, you know, because sometimes we sort of overwhelm people with so many different things, you know, because we got so much to offer. And so we start to offer everything and then they become overwhelmed.
It's like all at once.
So it was a simple process. So the idea came that why don't we start the program simply we just say to people, you know, add Krishna's heart to your heart. You know what I mean? So just add Krishna to your life. Just think to yourself that Krishna is my soulmate. He's my best friend. He loves me the most. He is my original father. Whatever you want to have, because there are 4 different ways Krishna says, right? You can have a relationship with him. We are his part and parcel. We are his children. We are his servants. And we are his beloveds, you know? All 4 are given in the Bhagavad Gita. So choose whichever or one or more of these methods, you know, as a friend. And then basically build a relationship with Krishna. And from that, everything else will come. And do that under the guidance of somebody who has already done it, you know? So here comes the, you know, Guru Krishna Prasad Paya Bhakti Lata Beach, you know, that type of stuff. You know, so I started a program called Added Hearts. Add Krishna's heart to your heart. Okay? And then after you've added Krishna's heart to your heart, please ask somebody else to do it too. Now that you found this great fortune, give this fortune to somebody else as well. You know what I mean? And speak to them. So it so happened that around that time, I was preaching to 3 Christian girls. You know, they happened to be millennials. And they were looking for some sort of like Vedic you know, solutions to the problems they were facing. They were trying to do some things, but they wanted to see a Vedic perspective, and they found out that Hare Krishnas have a Vedic perspective, and they found out I was one of the Hare Krishnas. You know, that. Anyway, so I've been giving them, then I brought into this process, you know, that why don't you accept this process? So they said, you know, really, why don't we say add God's heart to our heart? Because I think more people will join. And I said, no. Because then people will say, this is bait and switch. You said God and then turned it to Krishna. You know what I mean? Why not Christ? Why not Allah? Why not Sai Baba? Why not Lord Shiva? Why not Lord? You know, there are myriads of people out there who people think is God. You see what I'm saying? I said, look, you know, we should be authentic. If you want to be authentic, say what you mean what you say, like Prabhupada, right? He didn't call it God consciousness. He called it Krishna consciousness. A lot of people would have told him saying God consciousness might have been better. But he didn't say that. He thought Krishna consciousness is better. It's specific, it's honest, it's authentic. You know, it's supported. You know what I'm saying? So I told them, sorry, if you really want to be with me, it's got to be Krishna. So they all 3 accepted. They said, okay, we'll say Krishna. You know what I mean? And so then they started getting their friends in it. And, you know, it's sort of by word of mouth, right? It spreads, you know, like that. And I knew other people as well, and their friends. And these are the people, by the way, these ones that I just said, have committed themselves, because I only count them in if they commit themselves. And I tell them what commitment means. Commitment means your life belongs to God. You know, after that, that's commitment. You know what I mean? But there are a lot of others who are taking to this process, but they're not committed yet. They're not like, you know, like initiation is commitment, right? But I'm not initiating anybody. I'm just saying, commit yourself to Krishna and commit yourself to this process, you know, that the process is that you've got to love God, and to love God, there are some things that you should do. You should do some meditation, like mantra meditation. You should read Prabhupada's books. Particularly, I tell them, just read Prabhupada's books. They have all the answers in them. And particularly Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, you know, like that, Krishna book, things like that. And so these people are taking to that process, and they like it. And so now I found out a way that I can reach out to Westerners, because, you know, through millennials, you can reach out to other millennials, right? When you catch anybody through them, you can reach their own people because they know their people, and let them talk to them. I just be like the guide, like you might say a coach or something like that, coaching them doing the right thing, telling them not to, get off the path, because they like to digress. Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? I tell them, no, stay on the path, do whatever you like, but don't get off the path. Stay on the straight and narrow to Krishna. You know what I mean? And Gauranga Mahaprabhu. This is the way to do it. This is what you should accept. Gaur Nityananda, on the other side, Radha Krishna, Krishna Balaram, Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra. So it's the real thing. It's the real deal. It's authentic. You know what I mean? But given in a very sort of like easy to follow way, easy to accept way. I don't ask them to give up their meat eating, fish and eggs. They give it up on their own. You know what I mean? It's just follow the process in terms of accept Krishna in your life and know there's no one who can help you more and do better for you than Krishna and Gauranga Mahaprabhu. That's what it is. So that's a simple thing. Yeah.
How nice. How nice.
Yeah.
So do you have any plans for Janmashtami there, or is it because it's so...
We're doing online, and we're trying to make it exciting online by getting people who may know anything about Dallas to speak about Dallas that day, the deities that day. So, it's nice to see people speaking nice things about, it's a little like the deities Vyas Puja, you know what I mean? So everybody is, glorifying the deities. I came to Dallas and this happened and I love Dallas and this, that, and these people outside of Dallas. And so the Dallas devotees become excited to hear that because they're right here. And
wonderful.
So, and then ask people to do Abhishek in their homes, and we'll live cast their Abhishek that they did.
Nice.
Things like fancy dress, everybody, men, women, children, all fancy dress, and we'll show off the fancy dress online. And so we're doing a 33-hour program. We're starting at 4:30 in the morning on Tuesday, and we're finishing at 1:30 in the afternoon on Wednesday, because we're also doing Srila Prabhupada's Vyas Puja the next day. So we're just doing a full continuous 33-hour program. And then the next day will be about Prabhupada, of course, and like that. So I'm thinking this might be another big thing that might end up happening now. That people might like this.
Well, speaking of, sorry, go ahead.
But one more thing is that we allow them to pick up prasadam at the temple. So we make plates of prasadam, and very nice plates to go. Because of course we're very good at it. We do a lot of these catering things like that. So we make very nice, opulent prasadam, put them in nice boxes, maybe more than one box, and some glasses and things like that. So they get really nice meal, and then they take it home, and then they eat it nicely at home. And if they want to give to their friends, they can take some for their friends as well.
Wonderful.
So that's why prasadam is there. Prasadam is the main thing. I think that's what people relish the most, and the kirtan.
So speaking of your deities, if my understanding is that by Krishna's divine arrangement, Kalachandji's divine arrangement, Kunja Bihari's divine arrangement, Radharani's got switched.
Yes.
And the Radharani for Detroit ended up in Dallas.
Right.
Radharani is that true?
That is true. That is true. Because when Kalachandji was brought here, of course, as you know, Kalachandji was brought from Jaipur. He was the deity that the king of Jaipur used to worship, actually, with his deity, There are some people who say that Lord Chaitanya danced in front of that deity, in Jaipur, when he went through Jaipur. And later on, I found out from one of the Vrijabasis, who is quite familiar with the history of Vrindavan, that Kalachandji was originally from Vrindavan. And when the Mughals attacked, he was buried as well. It was the king of Jaipur who unearthed him and took him to Jaipur. And then Prabhupada brought him to Dallas. But when he brought him to Dallas, he was alone. He didn't have Radharani with him. So Prabhupada had a Radharani fashioned for him in Jaipur by the same Stapatis, the same family of people who make deities. And so, and then at the same time, he had one brought for Kunja Bihari, in Detroit. And so when they arrived at the port, for some reason, the crates got switched. And so the bigger Radharani, who was meant to be with Kalachandji, went with Kunja Bihari, and the more petite Radharani, who was supposed to be with Kunja Bihari, came to Dallas. And so when they realized their mistake, they asked Srila Prabhupada, what should we do? Prabhupada said, Kalachandji has chosen his Radharani. You can't make any difference. You don't have to do that Radharani. And she's a boss. I mean, she may be petite, but she's a real boss. Everybody knows that she's got Kalachandji wrapped around her little finger. And Kalachandji looks like a bit of a bully, you know what I mean? He's a big guy.
Yes, big guy, yes.
But if it's Radharani, really, is the real boss.
It is interesting, because I joined in Detroit, and Radharani is either the same size or maybe just a little bit taller than Kunjabi Hari, because she yeah, it's divine arrangement, obviously.
Yeah.
A particular Leela.
Yeah.
But really amazing.
Right. One other thing I think we should mention, you mentioned it in passing, we did pull in 4 of our very senior doctors. We have more doctors than that. We have about 10 or 15 doctors in Dallas. But 4 of the very senior ones who actually on a day-to-day basis deal with COVID to help guide us, And I think that's also very helpful. That is part of, I think, what should happen. They should also be consulted. We have doctors in our movement everywhere, and so they should be consulted. These are devotees, They know what's happening. They know how to adjust according to our tradition as well. And so it's very good to have.
And I'm glad you said that. We have, we're in Washington, and just 45-minute drive north is the Baltimore Temple. And the president of the Baltimore Temple, Nityanada Prabhu, is a doctor. And he was working in a COVID-19 wing. And I think we've had him once or twice on the GBC strategic planning team presentations, and he's very sobering presentation. Especially in the early days of the when his hospital started getting more and more busy. So I do appreciate that very much. Plus, one of our cardiologists here was on Bhakti Chumraj's medical team.
Wow!
And they found that the hospital there in Florida actually was very cooperative.
Wow!
Sometimes a hospital apparently can get a little offended if all these outside doctors are checking in on them and saying, are you, because it could seem like, hey, we know what we're doing. But there was a very good symbiotic relationship. Krishna had other plans, obviously. But I appreciate that. We were fortunate here in North America. We have so many devotees who are in the medical profession. And you said you have 10 or 15 there in Dallas alone.
Yeah.
So it's,
one thing that also comes to mind is, I feel that it's easier to catch COVID-19 if you feel insecure, you're worried all the time, you sort of put yourself in a negative frame, and that, I think COVID-19 may attack a person like that faster. But when you have such nice doctors supporting us, such a nice community who's there for you, you sort of feel more secure, you have a better positive frame, and you're less likely to fall prey to, the disease, I think. I think there's some connection there, So I think all temple presidents should do that, exude that type of confidence in their doctors and their senior devotees to support all devotees. So devotees feel supported, and then they don't always think about, COVID-19 all day long.
Right. Very good. Wow. Well, Nityananda Prabhu, it's been such a pleasure giving the opportunity to talk to you, and thank you so much for agreeing to this. And it's so wonderful that we got to hear about this wonderful ISKCON community that you're leading there in Dallas. It's really I've been there many times, and I always appreciate the devotees there very, very much.
Right. We have many nice leaders here. I'm actually the least amongst them. I just take the credit. They do all the work. I just do the credit, take the credit. But the point is that, it's a team, and the team works very hard. They're very sincere. And the deities, of course, are the real bosses. They're the ones on the altar, bossing everybody around. And Prabhupada, the way he set things up, I think, has been a very good program. And, devotees like Mal Krishna Maharaj and Giriraj Maharaj and Vittadwaja like that have actually, given the community a good sort of sense of camaraderie, cooperation, this, that, the other. Of course, there are challenges. It's a material world. You're going to be challenged. But the point is that we're very fortunate to have devotees like that. Of course, devotees like yourself, who have come to Dallas. Every time I've had a big problem, I've called you in to help me out, talk to devotees, and, see if we can sort the matter out. Because sometimes devotees get into it with one another, and Temple President can't sort it out because I'm friends on both sides, And so when somebody like you comes in, it makes the devotee community a better community. I really thank you for that. You've helped us so many times. We really love that. Everybody loves you down here, There's only you as the temple president and me, for sure.
Well, again, thank you very, very much for this opportunity. And the GBC Strategic Planning Team is very indebted to you for taking this time.
Likewise, very indebted to them, very indebted to them.
And wish you all the best, Prabhu.
Same to you all. Thank you all. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhascha.
Krishna.
Vaishnava Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.